Wait, you're an audiophile, right? That's why you watch the Audiophiliac Daily Show? So here's a very direct question. Did you buy your home or rent your home or your apartment because it had a great sounding room for your hi-fi? You know, I have. I've done that for a very long time. I've lived in this apartment for almost 30 years. But before that, I moved a lot. And every time I went to a new place, I would do a walk around. I'd walk around the room. I'd be clapping my hands, listen for flutter echo. I would just be sussing it out, like, does this room have any sound potential, or are there obvious problems? You could just hear it when people talk in a room. I'm with other people and they're talking, or I just listen to them talk, and I could just hear resonances in that room. Did I ever bring any kind of audio to a room? I think one time I did. I think one time I was really close, but I was unsure, but I had this sneaking suspicion that the room really sucked. So I asked the real estate person, I said, I got an unusual request. I want to bring in a small hi-fi to play it here. And she looked at me like I was insane. But I did, and you know what? It did turn a corner for me, and I was like, no, this room has, because it was easy to move the speakers around the room because it was empty. I said, no, this room has zero potential. It's just a hard, bright, aggressive sounding space. So no, I'm not going to take it. I felt bad for this real estate person who wasted more time with me. But that's the way it goes in sales. But I remember I had this apartment once. Most of these places are in Brooklyn. And I had this apartment, and it was actually right near where, if you know who Townes Van Zandt lives. I lived on the same block as Townes Van Zandt when he was living there. But that's another story for another time. But anyway, this apartment had suspended wood floors, and it was a big space by apartment standards in New York, and it just had the best sound. Oh, it was heaven. And I had my Snell A improved speakers, these big honking speakers, and they made incredible bass. It was so smooth and so even in the room, and the imaging was great. It was probably the best sounding room I've ever had. I also lived in a place that had really high ceilings, which can be a problem, and I had a loft space within the apartment. I had my own private deck that was, basically the top of the back of the building, and it was another terrific sounding room. It was kind of squarish, but it was big. It was probably maybe 25 feet wide or 28 feet wide by maybe 20. But then it had this upstairs because it had a high ceiling. So maybe the ceiling was 18 feet, something like that. So anyway, weird sized room, but it actually sounded fantastic. Then I lived in an apartment in Manhattan, and that room was a disaster because that room was smallish. It was like a normal New York City apartment size room. It was 11 by 18 or 19 feet, but the walls were concrete. I mean, they were plastered over, but they were concrete. Floor was concrete, ceiling was concrete. The sound was trapped in the room. Bass was a disaster in that room. So I basically resorted to using speakers that basically had no bass under 60 hertz. And because there was so much boom in that room, and using a bass limited output speaker in a room like that turned out to be a good strategy, a good workaround strategy. I lived there a long time, and I did lots of experimentation, but that was the key. I also had the big Snells in that room, and that's, again, a story for another video. But the point is, where you live, when you go to check out a new house or apartment, is that part of what you're thinking about. It should be. If you're a pretty serious audiophile and it's a big chunk of your life and you're spending a lot of your disposable income on audio, where you live, whether it's going to be for a few years or a long time, think about it. Do the walk-around test at least. Talk, listen to people talking, clap your hands, or do what I did one time, bring a stereo system in there just to get a feel for what it's going to be like. It's important stuff. The room is the most important component, as they say. I definitely believe that. My name is Steve Guttenberg, and this is very much the Audiophiliac Daily Show. Come back often. Please, I urge you, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Hit that little button right down there and go. And when you subscribe, hit the notification bell. And that means you'll be aware of every brilliant new episode of this incredible channel. And you can follow me on Twitter at AudiophiliacMan. And I think my work here is done for today. Thank you so much for watching.